I'm Sarah Russell.
I'm JQ Walker.
I'm Hind, and we are
The Neurodivergent Report, a research-based podcast by and for neurodivergent brains.
In each episode, we'll explore topics relating to neurodiversity and coping strategies by reviewing the literature and discussing current topics.
We will also have interview episodes where we sit down with experts in the field and listeners like you, with the hope that together we can all learn to heal in community.
However you are able to engage, thank you for being here. I just wanted to jump right in and start recording because I can already tell that we're going to have a lot of content. I was just checking our mics and I can see, Jackie, that yours has a name.
Yeah.
Why did you name it Pernicious Fucker?
I don't know. It's funny. I was like, why did I do that? I thought it was funny at the time.
It is
It
funny.
is very funny.
I think that's a good enough reason. It's funny.
That is a good enough
Yeah,
reason.
like, I just
so
thought
it just reminds me of my husband who has nicknamed his bank accounts different like names, and so every time he goes and speaks to a teller, they laugh. But for the most part, he just
Oh.
forgets. So
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's
just
fun.
another quirky,
Mm.
just really funny. How we all do like similar things, connections.
We're very excited to have you. I was just talking to Sarah. We revised everything beforehand, and you said you're an art therapist, and I thought, my God, that is so amazing. I only met one art therapist other than you, so now I have met
Mhm.
two, and it's something that I've been interested in as someone who wants to be a psychiatrist to see how
Oh.
that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
cool.
But first, Jackie, like tell us about you. Let's go there, and then we'll talk about art therapy.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm an art therapist, but I'm also a late identified autistic and ADHD human. So, after all of my experience with that, I chose to focus my private practice on working with other late identified autistic and ADHD people simply because there aren't enough providers out there who really get what it's like internally. And I wanted to kind of provide what I wanted to find at the time. So I do that. And then also
Beautiful.
I'm an artist and writer in my free. It's funny to say free time. I feel like I spend most of my time doing art and writing, honestly, more than therapy or anything else. So it's not really in my free time. My main focus is my art and writing.
That's amazing. Have you published anything? What kind of writing do you invest in or write?
Yeah, so I've published 7 books, and so I write and illustrate them. So, and they're all on like nonfiction topics. So, for instance, one's called Grief
Ooh.
is a Mess, one is called Life as a Late Identified Autistic. They're all just things I pull from my personal
Very helpful.
experience and then make
That's
art
very cool.
and writing about it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Anytime we hear a disparaging comment or sort of self-doubt, Hind, you need to get on the review situation. Remember, look up book reviews and start giving her compliments
Oh,
that
yeah.
people have
Oh,
left her
yeah.
online.
I do that because
We haven't named that, but yeah, that is a thing that we can do if you have stuff online, which you do. That's amazing. I was gonna ask you what genre book, but it sounds
Yeah.
like just general like self-help and like using art to describe complex topics. I love
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
What else was I gonna say? It'll come back to me.
Oh, I know.
I'm
That
so glad
happens to
you
me all
brought
the time.
All right.
Oh,
Wow.
I think it was just going to be about like what type of modality of art do you do, but we're definitely going to talk about that some more later on. I think what we usually segue to from here is how did you get diagnosed? I
Mhm.
think how did that
Yeah.
get missed? And I know part of that is like
Yeah.
just the timing of it all. We're very similar in
Yeah.
ages, so like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so since we mentioned age, I'm 40. And so I definitely grew up in a time where most people didn't recognize autism in young girls, especially if you
Mhm.
were had intelligence enough to like get through school. So since I excelled in
Functioning at all.
school, yeah,
Yeah.
since I performed well in
Yeah.
school, those are usually the metrics they look at, like, oh, she's doing well. Um, and didn't
Mhm.
really focus on the fact that I didn't have friends, that I wasn't, happy or doing well internally. And so I think moving into my 20s, I did seek out, therapy and help and received other like misdiagnoses. I think
Mhm.
just because, again, people were confused by me, like, oh, she
Same.
can hold jobs, she can go to school, like what, it's something else. And it wasn't until my 30s when I was working with an art and working with men, like she was my therapist. I had an art therapist and she mentioned that I could be autistic. And I just thought that was the most ridiculous thing because at that point, I was already a therapist, and the training I received about autism was so little and so narrow, that like, oh, you can't make eye contact, you line your shit up. Like, it was just so limited. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, like I can hold conversations. There's no way I'm autistic. And then she encouraged me to read the book Divergent Mind, which was the first time I saw like an interior look at autism. And I was like, whoa, that feels very, very familiar. And then started researching
Mm.
more and kind of from there, eventually, a year later, got diagnosed. So that's kind of my
Okay.
journey.
Thank you for sharing
It's
that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you went through the education system and that even was not even helpful because it was never representative. We have a long way to go. There's so many gaps when it comes to neurodiversity, education, knowledge, diagnosis, support. But I'm glad that you did. I feel, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you start to understand yourself better and the quality of your life and the work that you do just changes completely after, I think, after the diagnosis.
Yes, I agree. Though now that it's been longer, I do try to be clear with my clients that it's not just this like uphill trajectory. Like, oh, it all gets better from here.
Yeah.
Which I know you're
Yeah.
not saying that
Gravy,
either, but
gravy.
yeah, that there's still a lot of ups and downs, I would say, but definitely I feel better equipped with how to handle them and that I understand why they're happening versus before it was like, oh, like why do I get like this? Why do, especially with all the emotional highs and lows and things like that.
Thank you for
Yeah.
pointing that out because we always forget that that's the case. And we would assume that this is failure, this minor setback, or that something is wrong when it's just life. Thank you for that. So let's
Mhm.
go
Mhm.
to the main topic. What is
Okay.
art therapy, Jackie?
Yes. Well, um art therapy, I like to explain it as it's similar to talk therapy, where you still have goals. Like you're coming to therapy for a reason, whether that be, hey, I'm depressed, or hey, I'm anxious, or why am I so unhappy with life? That kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so as
Mhm.
art therapists, we just use additional techniques and tools to help someone. So that could look like in session someone says, I noticed they're like really angry about a topic. And I'm like, hey, let's like pause and like put on an angry song. And I'll have them like paint as like fast as they can to express their anger. And it's powerful to be able to externalize what you're feeling. And so then to have this giant painting with your anger, be able to look at it, clients are often like, whoa, I didn't realize how angry I am. And
Mm.
then oftentimes we can kind of like dialogue with it or like, hey, let's write if this painting could speak, let's write a poem of like what it would say. And like, so it's just other ways to approach psychological topics and kind of get fresh perspectives for your brain. Because as a
Mm.
therapist, I'm not we all know that, like, if you tell someone, like, "Hey, this is what you need to do to feel better," that doesn't mean they're gonna do it, and it doesn't mean it's actually gonna help. Like, none of us want that. Like, we
Yeah.
really need to come to our own realizations, and art therapy helps people see themselves and see and get ideas of like, oh wow, if I'm this angry, then maybe I need to like, and then they have some idea of their own. And so really, I'm really wanting my clients to take ownership of themselves and see themselves
Mm.
fully and um, take action for themselves. And I find art is just so powerful for that.
It's really beautiful. I mean, it's 10 times better than I thought it would be. I wanted to ask you, it's a silly question after this, but does this count?
Art therapy activities. Oh, this is interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. You
Yeah.
bring up an
Mm.
interesting point because that's kind of like asking a talk
Well,
therapist if
depends.
you read a therapy book, is that therapy? So,
Okay. That's a beautiful
y-
analogy. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yes, I think those art activities are powerful. And yes, I think reading books about psychology are powerful, but it's different when you work with a therapist.
Yeah, it's more
100%.
like the entryway to see if you're gonna go and actually find someone to talk to about this stuff. Like, I want to call it the gateway drug, but it's sort of like taking a peek at
Or
what is involved in working with a therapist.
Or
What
sometimes
would
I
we
think
talk
that's
about?
the level of work you need, right? Like you don't always need a therapist, but it is so
Sure.
different when you work with a therapist and have someone seeing things you can't see, guiding you to things your brain would
Mm.
never even think of, or like asking you questions you would never think to ask yourself, or trying certain art activities you would never even know to like pursue.
Yeah, and I think that relates back to what you were saying about how there's not enough neurodivergent practitioners,
Mhm.
because the person that you're working with is going to matter. If they don't get your brain, then they're not going to be able to help you either, no matter how good of an art therapist they are. Um,
Agreed.
I
so,
was going to ask you
yeah.
about that. How do you tailor your therapy to neurodiversity?
Um, it's funny. I
I
I
mean,
have a hard time
it's
with
the
the word
essence and the magic. Yeah, it's the magic of what you
yeah,
do.
well,
You cannot simplify it, but just like
well,
to give an
no. No, 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 I
yeah,
mean, I
Yeah.
can simplify it. It's more just like the word tailor. It's more like it's like the essence. It's not because
yeah,
I think automatically my brain already thinks that way because I'm autistic and
yeah,
ADHD. But really a lot of what I'm doing is helping people see like, hey, this is an autism characteristic like coming into play here, or this
Mm.
helping them see themselves fully and see how their neurodivergence is impacting them. And then helping clients discern that murky land of like, what parts of myself do I need to accept? For example, like I wanted personally to not have so many emotional ups and downs, but I
mm,
will always experience them as someone who's neurodivergent and experience them at a higher intensity and frequency than most people. And that is just a reality that I've come to accept. And so
yeah,
I feel so much better when I accept that versus fighting it all the time. Like, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel things so intensely? Why do I like, and
Mm.
spiraling into shame? And so a lot
Mhm.
of
yeah.
conversations with clients are like, what things can you work on accepting? And then what areas can you kind of shift a little?
Yeah, I was just thinking you're able to identify, let's say, someone having sensitivity issues, someone having, like you said, the emotional roller coaster experience of being neurodivergent way better than another therapist, and tackle it either through radical acceptance or through art therapy, through, okay, let's talk about this
Yeah.
sensitivity issue that you have. How does that make you feel? Whatever it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. How can you, and this is something that's selfish for me, how can you through art therapy if you can. Just radical acceptance, which is something that requires a lot, I'm sure, but like a tip or yeah, something.
Um, I think that'll be different for each person. And so
Mhm.
that is something that like I love about being an art therapist is you tailor everything to who's in front of you. So, like, I might notice that a client all the time on their own time loves to do like tiny, tight little drawings. And so I might then instead have them do like giant movements. And in doing those giant movements, usually they're quite uncomfortable. And we talk about like, because so much of like how you approach art and how you feel in art making mirrors how you feel in life. So that's another beautiful thing about art
Yeah,
therapy is I get to actually see the things clients struggle with in action. Whereas other talk therapy, you're often just talking about something in the past. Whereas art, like for instance, I have a lot of clients that are like, I hate this painting. I don't know how to make it pretty. It looks so ugly. And like that
yeah,
mirrors a lot of things. And so we can talk, you know, so then I might have them like make a painting that is intentionally ugly. And using that to look at their
yeah,
life of like, what's it like to make something you know will be ugly? And so this is getting back to your question about radical acceptance and like that we're not just talking about it, but we're practicing it. Like moving through the
excellent,
feelings
yeah,
of like, my painting's ugly and we're
yeah,
gonna hang
that's
it on the
yeah,
wall. Like I might say like, okay,
I yeah,
now
I could
I
only do that if I made it a joke. Like,
mm,
I would have to make it so funny because otherwise I would just be so uncomfortable the whole time. Um,
yeah. Yeah, and
oh,
that's
which
something we would
says a
talk about
lot.
then, like how to use humor to protect yourself and how to, like, so people think often about art therapy being about the end product, but it's really about
The
watching
process.
someone as they, yes, as they approach the art and do the art. And that tells me far more than the end product.
Yeah,
wow.
as you were saying this, I was thinking, and it told me a lot about myself just as I was thinking about it, that I would have a problem with art therapy because I have a problem with my hands, with my legs. I'm not very coordinated, and I'm worried that I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna ruin my clothes. I'm gonna ruin everything around me because always have a feeling that if I buy something pretty, I'm gonna ruin it because I am not in control of my
Yeah.
and I can easily break stuff. And you just brought that up right now. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And so for something like that, of course, I would be like, "Okay, you're gonna wear messy clothes." And then I might have you
Yeah.
practice doing like a little finger painting and seeing like kind of having small doses of like, what does that feeling feel like for you? I mean, I'm never going to like force a client to do something that they absolutely detest, because as autistics, sometimes sensory wise, like for instance, clay, I do work a lot with clay, but some clients I don't use it with just simply because it grosses them out too much. And
Yeah.
I
The, like,
respect that,
Sensory
you
issues.
know?
Yeah.
wetness.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're miserable the whole time simply because of sensory issues, yeah, I'm not going to force you through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I actually really quick, I had to do some sensory play with my youngest. And so
Uh-huh.
I tried like two different kinds. I got like a slime putty that I kind of knew would have that wetness to it. And then I
Hmm.
also got like a sand, that kinetic sand stuff. So it had
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
dry
yeah.
texture, a little crunchy, but no wetness. And he really
Yeah.
did prefer the kinetic sand. So
Yeah. Well, and
sometimes
that
we
kind
just
of
have to try other things.
And that's a lot of like being trained as an art therapist is knowing different materials. So for instance, that client who can't stand the sticky clay, I might use polymer clay with them then because it doesn't have the same feel, but they can still make something in 3D. And
Actually,
so
yeah.
it's, yeah, knowing things like that and
Cool.
alternatives. And yeah, I feel really lucky to
You're
to
amazing.
do
I'm
what I
just
do.
seeing you in action, just come up with solutions just on the spot is amazing. You're very inspirational. I think you're very special because you're not only a therapist, but you're an artist. which sounds obvious, but when you look at it, it requires a lot. It requires a lot. You need to be aware of textiles, paintings, ways of
Hmm.
handling art and
Yeah.
playing with art. And I think that's really
Yeah.
beautiful. Um,
Mhm.
for me, I think I've always been one who is more scientific, but appreciate in
Hmm.
their workplace,
Yeah.
but also likes to incorporate a lot of art into it. I like to, um, because I like to do that for me in my day to day life. I appreciate art a lot, and that's in the form of movies, poems.
Yeah.
Try to appreciate paintings more. I love historical paintings.
Mhm.
And I usually like if I deal with kids, I usually use it depends on their favorite superhero and the
Right.
illustrations there, and use that.
Yeah.
I remember one person was so scared and they loved Spider-Man and just told them like this is Spider-Man,
Mm.
they will protect you, and using that comic book features to give protection, but also movies for me matter a lot. And
Mhm.
I was wondering
Yeah.
if on the side after you're done with the
Huh.
therapy, do
I
you
guess
let
movies
them
do count as art.
yeah, and music and all that, do you encourage them to add art into their daily life like
Yeah.
that?
Well, and I'm glad you brought this up because people do think of art therapy as like, oh, you're painting or like I mentioned, clay, but really art is all of the modalities. So sometimes I'll ask clients to make a playlist of like, okay, that really hard time you went through, I want you to make a playlist of 10 songs. Or conversely, I'd like you to make a playlist of how you want to feel. And so
Oh
because music's
yeah,
so powerful. And sometimes I have clients make it, and it really depends on where they're excited because that makes such a difference, right? With their like, oh, if I love this medium. So I have some clients that are really into making videos. So they'll make like a video to reflect something, or a lot of my clients are into digital art. And so I really am using everything I can to keep their
everything.
enthusiasm so that my goal is that they discover the joy of creativity again, because I think that's something we have as children, and that
Mhm.
they then continue it naturally in their life because like it just is fun. And like and so for me between sessions, I give clients things to do. So um sometimes it'll be like, okay, I want you to go on a nature walk and gather items that you find interesting and then make a little sculpture and just snap a picture and then throw your shit everywhere. Like, so I try to like do,
Return
I
it
mean, and
to
it's,
nature.
yeah, but it's all related obviously to like what we're working on. Or maybe in that instance, it could be if I'm wanting them to get out of their head more and have experiences of like wonder and just presence. Something like hunting for little nature items, like you're focused, right? You're like, oh, look at this little acorn. And like, so
Yeah,
again, making it experiential and not just,
Mhm.
um,
And it's
yeah,
movement.
saying like, this is something you need to do. And you're like, well, how do I do that?
because you
Yeah, and it's
understand what
hunting.
motivates
Yeah.
them. Yeah,
Hmm.
perfect. Well, this naturally leads me to the second
Beautiful.
question, which is in general, a patient of yours or just a normal person, how can someone invite creativity into their daily lives? What would you recommend?
Oh my God.
It's a tough question.
How
Yeah,
do we how do
It's
we
not I
learn
well,
how to play again?
it's only tough because there's so many options, right? Like, that's the only reason I think it's hard.
Mhm.
that's a
I
good
would
answer. That I'd love to hear it.
yeah, I would say start with a material that interests you. Like, go to an art store, walk around, and, like, it's even better if you
Mhm.
have no idea what you're doing. Like, if you have no idea what that art material does, great. Like, just get it and be like, "What do I do with you?" And, like, because there's so many crazy things. There's like air dry
Investigate.
clay. There's like maybe it's a little needle felt things, like whatever it
Uh,
is. It's like that's how we learn as kids, right? You're like, what is like you just
Yeah.
start messing around. No one comes and says, here's how you play. And so I think that's a really good. place to start.
expectations, just go in and see what interests you. Perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Um, I think for sure I'm gonna do the playlist thing that you mentioned. Music is such an important part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that, and I'm gonna because I always go with songs that represent how I feel, but I think
Mhm.
songs that represent how I wish I could feel is
Yeah.
is something I'm
Mm.
really interested in trying. I remember this one time.
Definitely used that technique to make myself cry.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. When you need to sink into a feeling, right? Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. So it's both.
Let it
Like it
out.
can be opposite action,
Yeah.
or it could be going with the flow and seeing that, because that really I think would help with people who have a hard time. I know for an instance that in depression, someone may not just be crying a lot. It could be the lack of crying. It could be the lack of feeling.
Yeah.
That they
Yep.
wish they wish they could cry. They wish
Mhm.
they can tap into their feelings, and that could really help.
Mm.
Um, um,
Can I
I
piggyback
wanted,
off of what you were saying with the playlist?
please go for it.
Yeah, so then, like, if I what I would have you do next after, like, you have your playlist is then to,
Yes.
like, hang a giant poster on the wall, play your playlist, and use either, like, paint sticks or markers or something, and make marks as you're listening to your playlist. And, like, it can be fun, like, if
Love
it's a
that.
peppy song, you can be like but, like, it's so it's you're not trying to
Oh
make,
my
like, a pretty
gosh.
piece of art,
Okay.
obviously. You're just
Um,
like
I'm picturing in my head like a 90s movie, just a lady dancing around in her art
Yeah,
studio.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
we didn't know back
Yeah.
then that that was therapy. We just thought they were eccentric,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but they were
It is
healed the
so
whole
liberating.
time.
I think dancing is also a form of art therapy. Am I right?
Mhm.
Yes,
Yes, like,
100%.
sometimes I'll have clients, like, make a movement that reflects how you feel when you're, like, ruminating. So maybe for them, that's like oh, sorry, if people can't see me necessarily on
Yeah,
a
yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
where, like, you're
No, no,
constricted, but
no. It's
also
a
you're
visual podcast as
my arm.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just listening, my hands are spinning. And then I'll say, like, okay, make a movement of how you wish you felt. And maybe your hands become like a
Mm,
wave. And so then I'll say something
yeah.
like, okay, start with your spinning, and I want you to make a transition into the wave. And often what happens is they're like, I don't know how to do that. And like it's so hard.
Yeah.
And that reflects
Hmm.
life, right? Like it is so hard to go from like yee to the wave, but that's exactly the jump we always demand of ourselves. And so it makes it real that like that's an unrealistic expectation we put on ourselves. And so how do we make a middle ground and a transition space?
Wow. My God. I mean, I've learned so. I'm really lucky that I'm in a podcast that I get to learn so much with every single guest. You guys are amazing, and I'm so glad that you're approaching us and deciding to join
Thank you.
our
Yeah.
podcast. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be thinking about you as we dance around our living room. Um, I personally want to get one of those giant rolls of paper.
Mhm.
I've got a couple of ideas where I can get one for
Yeah.
free. And I would love to
Oh,
do that and put it on
yeah.
my wall and just make my walls a space where my 3-year-olds could although actually my husband might hate that idea, but anyway, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Hey,
Maybe it'll
since
be
you've
a mommy only
mentioned,
activity,
oh,
whatevs. I
I was
don't
just gonna
know.
add,
No, I want it to be him too. Tell me.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell us.
Um, just that I liked what you were saying about maybe there's a way you could get the paper for free. Like that's another thing is like using what we have or finding other creative ways. So like for instance, when I want giant rolls of paper, I go to a construction store like Lowe's or Home Depot because in the painting section, they have paper that I guess you laid down to like protect the carpet.
Yeah.
Um in the painting section, and it's way cheaper than if you go to an art store and buy a roll of paper. It's like 15
Yeah.
bucks for this
Thank
giant
you
huge
for
roll of
pointing
paper.
this out.
Yeah.
I
That's really
feel
true.
because therapy is expensive and unfortunately it's a privilege. So talking about
Hmm.
that is really important, and accessible ways to use art therapy
Yep.
is important for
Hmm.
the audiences to see, because they need to feel heard and say, well, I don't have enough money to go to an art studio and get all these paints
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Honestly, I was already thinking about where to get free paper, and I was thinking of newspaper. You can
Hmm.
like just tape up newspaper on your wall and then do like you'd have to
Hmm.
use paint or maybe oil pastels or something. Something with a strong pigment, but you could still do it. And
Yeah.
that would be cheaper maybe. I get tons of like newspaper and like advertisements sent to my house, and I wish they would stop,
Yeah.
but maybe I'll just paint on them.
Though I would
yeah,
caution,
yeah.
newspaper often is so thin that the paint will go through to the wall, or it'll tear as you're using it.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
you don't want, yeah. And that's another thing about being an art
It sounds
therapist,
like
right?
maybe
Is
putting
that
up a
you,
plastic barrier before
yeah,
taping up that paper would be great. Like
yeah.
again,
Or
we're talking like the paint section of Home Depot is going to have those plastic tarps.
I did want to say a few things about other art supplies, like since we were talking about
yes.
like what's in
Yeah.
your home. Like sometimes I have
Yeah.
clients sculpt with foil, like right out of their kitchen, or because I meet with the majority of my clients online. So a lot of times it's about getting creative with what you already have in your home. Or like maybe you have a tube of lipstick that you don't use anymore, and instead of or makeup you don't like, instead of throwing it out, you can paint with it. Like you can
Hmm.
create art with it. And same with like old makeup brushes and like, and honestly, some creativity thrives in constriction. And I know that sounds crazy, but when it's like, hey, you only have these materials and you have to make something, your brain works and comes up with incredible ideas. So if you're like, hey, I can only make art with what's in my kitchen, you can like do some cool stuff. Maybe you start like you're like, all right, I'm going to use this spatula. And all right, I have like some blueberries and I'm gonna mash them on my page and like make something, like see what happens with the blueberries on like
Yeah.
the paper. And like it's more about the play and the experimentation than making something pretty at the end.
Love that we're talking about that, because our podcast is all about intersectionality and talking about different ways that we can help people. And I didn't want us to sound fancy smancy and like, go and get this and get that, but actually giving
Mhm.
practical ways for people to,
Hmm.
to have this in their lives. And obviously, if they find this interesting, to go and see an art therapist like you. Uh,
Thanks for being here. If you want to connect with the Neurodivergent Report, you can find us at ND Report Pod on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Substack, etc. If you're looking to support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Please do that.
And hey, if you want to check out more about us, visit our website at ndreportpod.com. And you can also go there if you want to be a guest contributor on the show.
Until next time, be well, do good.
Bye.